My name is Kulecki. Welcome to my new cycle, Playing with Airliner Data. The idea of the cycle is to take a look on the data of the airliners from the very beginning until now. I took a look on 65 aircrafts worldwide, including all the available sources of propulsion, which is reciprocating, turbojets, turboprops, and turbofans. All the data was collected into one Excel file, and I was trying to illustrate tendencies in the aviation. So the episode 1 is about the velocity. This chart shows the cruise speed in kilometers per hour versus the years of introduction of the aircrafts. So we can see 4 groups of aircrafts: reciprocating engines, turbojet, turboprops, and turbofans. And at the first glance you can see one outlier in the group, which is Concorde. It took its first flight in 1969, which is twice as much faster than any other airliner. Yes, there was another one, which was Tupolev 144. However, it took like about 50 commercial flights, which is marginal for the history of the aviation. You can see that all the other aircrafts fly below Mach number 1, and just the Concorde was the one flying with a double speed of sound. So let's filter out the Concorde and take a look on the others. So looking at the reciprocating engines, you can see there's a strong tendency in here. I would call it a learning curve. We can see that turbojets and turbofans share a common area, just close to the speed of sound. We can say that this is an optimum condition to fly a turbojet or turbofan propelled aircraft. And we can see another area which covers the turboprops. So turboprops are generally slower than turbojets and turbofans, but you can see that there is one that doesn't match. See a Kovlev 40. This is the one that was flying slowly as for a turbofan, but probably this is because there was no available turboprop engine of this size those days. The turbolet, powered with the Walter turboprop engine of a similar passenger capacity, took its first flight a couple of years later. Let's wipe out the whiteboard and take a look on how the world's history in 20th century matched the history of aviation. So those 2 gray ribbons show World War I and World War II. You can see that the end of World War I was just the beginning of commercial aviation at all. Before the First World War, people were just learning to fly. During the World War I, people were polishing skills and improving their flying machines. So in 1919, people were ready to lift people up for commercial flying. And also, World War II was a big leap in technology, and this was the time when the turbine engines got good enough to begin commercial service carrying passengers. So we can see certain periods in the history of commercial aviation. Piston era, beginning in 1919 and ending early 1950s. Jet era, which was like late 40s and until maybe early 60s. You might wonder why jets and turbofans are sharing similar performance, but the jet era was so short. This is because the jets were very thirsty for fuel and very noisy. turbofans let people fly for less fuel and much more quieter, which is important from the environmental perspective. And finally, turbofan and turboprop era, which started between 1950s and 1960s, and both are continued until now. And honestly, there are no views to see any revolution in aviation propulsion as of now. So concluding, you can see that the performance of aircrafts is purely propulsion driven. Reciprocating engines demand more performance, so they couldn't stay in the business for long. They were pushed out by turbojets and later on by turbofans for long haul, fast flying, and turboprops for short haul flying. And unfortunately, there is no supersonic airliner available anymore, and there is no firm plan to build any in the close future. I would like to thank some internet services for sharing data. Thank you very much for watching. Visit us on Facebook.